Du Bois County once again has the lowest unemployment rate in Indiana. A full breakdown of state and local numbers, plus the city of Jasper is continuing to work on its subdivision control and zoning ordinances, and Patty Ozer and Jamie Horton talk about the CSRS pediatric program tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. Well, Indiana unemployment numbers for May are now out, and Du Bois County once again has the lowest rate in Indiana, despite an increase from April's rates. Figures that were released this morning by the Indiana Department of Workforce Development show the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate for the state held steady during May at 5.7%. That was mainly due to about 2,000 unemployed Hoosiers returning to the labor force to look for work. Indiana's rate of unemployment remains more than half of a percentage point below the national rate. The state's labor force gains also continue to outpace the national rate as the Hoosier labor force has grown by more than 46,000 over the past year, while increases across the country have been minimal. Indiana added 4,800 private sector jobs during the month of May, led by the private educational and health services, along with the professional and business services sectors. Since the low point of unemployment in the state back in July of 2009, Indiana has added nearly 223,000 private sector jobs. Now, locally, as mentioned, Du Bois County again sported the state's lowest unemployment rate last month at 3.9%. That's an increase of 0.4% from April. This marks the second month in a row for Du Bois County to be in the #1 spot. Indianapolis suburb Hamilton County came in second, just 0.1% behind. Among other counties in our viewing area, Davies County is in a three-way tie for third at 4.3%. Martin rounds out the top 10 at 4.7%. Spencer County was at an even 5%, Pike County 5.4%, Perry 5.5%. Orange County's unemployment rate came in at 6.2%, and Crawford County was at 6.6%. Fayette County had the highest unemployment rate in Indiana. That was at 8% even. The Hoosier State's 5.7% unemployment rate is 0.2% above Ohio's, but it's well below all other neighboring states. The city of Jasper is continuing to look into changing its subdivision control and zoning ordinances. Last night marked the fourth of 6 meetings of the all-volunteer steering committee that is guiding the process for changing the ordinance. The project has taken a bit of a turn over the last few months as consultants KK Gerhardt Fritz and Aaron Kowalski have recommended that the city go to a unified ordinance for both subdivision control and zoning, a recommendation that the committee has followed. Now, last night's meeting focused on subdivisions and several recommendations were heard. These ranged from creating distinctions between a minor and major subdivision to how the city should handle requests from folks who buy a smaller property but want to split it into 2 separate lots. Director of Community Development and Planning Darla Blasey says the key will be to make the process easier for developers who are looking to build houses in Jasper going forward.
Right now we kind of have a one-size-fits-all model, so we're looking at how can we make various processes easier for different types of users, and one would be a commercial or industrial developer, and how we could streamline those processes through just what we would be setting up in this ordinance.
With 2 meetings left, the focus now moves to the zoning aspect of the new ordinance and putting finishing touches on those plans. A zoning map is set to be presented to the steering committee at the next meeting. Blasey says this part of the ordinance is important for how the city grows into the future.
Zoning really goes to the use of the land. Where can you locate a business in Jasper? We do have certain places set up. If it's more of a high density type in operation, or if it's industrial, we want that to be in one location. If somebody's coming in to develop a subdivision for residents, we want that at another location. So it's really, zoning is about how to use the land appropriately.
The last of the 6 meetings is set to be held in August. The end of the meetings marks the beginning of the process, however. Blasey says everything that comes out of the next 2 meetings will then go to the city's Planning Commission for their review. Public meetings are set for later this year to get public input before everything goes to the Jasper City Council for their final approval. Blasey says the whole process for the new combined ordinance is still on track to be done by the end of this year. United States Gypsum has received a new tax abatement from Martin County. Earlier this week, the Martin County Council voted unanimously to approve that request. Company officials are planning to invest $9.5 million for initial expansion efforts that could take place at the company's Shoals plant. The amount requested was originally $51 million, but the company decided to split their plan into 2 phases, thus scaling back the amount of money needed for the initial abatement. The company will invest that money to build a larger warehouse and update various machinery and equipment inside of the plant. Robert Frankson with USG told the council that the initial fund request was more of a midterm investment plan, while the rest of the money will be a longer-term plan. He says the company felt it was best to get the first phase done now and to keep an eye open for the second phase as business conditions improve. Now, Shoals is currently competing with Sperry, Iowa for this expansion. If Shoals were to win out, the project could add 30 new jobs to the plant. Those jobs might be added by January of 2016. The Shoals plant makes several different products for USG. It is the highest volume and lowest cost producer for the company's gypsum ceiling tile. Now that the abatement has been approved, company officials say a decision on where to expand will likely be made soon. The first phase of the Odin-Cannelberg Road project in Davies County is almost finished in spite of weather delays. Crews are set to start pulling up asphalt between the intersection with County Road 550 North and the Swartz & Truber Sawmill on Monday. This last section should be completed by August 1st. County highway officials say the remaining work will still be dependent largely on how well the weather cooperates. Highway Superintendent Phil Cornelius says any delays from weather would be felt in the dirt work that's needed to raise the intersection at County Road 550 North. Phase 1 will have cost $2.7 million by the time this roadwork stretch is done. There are 3 phases in the whole project, and the project as a whole will cost $22 million. The project is designed to make it easier for businesses in the area to move goods in and out via truck while also separating motor vehicle and buggy traffic to make the road safer. 100 businesses in all along the corridor would be able to take advantage of the new roadway. Motorists who use the road frequently will get a bit of a break from construction once Phase 1 is done. Phase 2 of the project will be bid out coming up in December, and the construction contract should be awarded in January. February would mark the beginning of relocating utilities in the area, and construction would start this upcoming March. Now, the Odin-Cannelberg Road project is the largest single road construction project in Davies County's history. The last phase of the project is still being designed and will likely go to bid in late 2016. Jasper-based German-American Band Corp will be sponsoring another event aimed at cleaning up debris in communities around the county. The second Clean Sweep event will be held next Saturday, June 28th in Huntingburg. The event is set to get underway at 8 a.m. next Saturday morning and will last no more than an hour and a half. Teams will walk several blocks throughout the city to clean up debris from sidewalks, roadways, and alleys. Now, German-American officials say the cleanup will coincide with the upcoming visit to Huntingburg by the Stellar Communities Selection Committee. That visit will take place on July the 9th. Volunteers are being sought for the Clean Sweep event. If interested, you can contact Sue Engelbrecht with the Huntingburg Merchants Association. As mentioned, this is the second Clean Sweep event that German-American has sponsored this year. The company also sponsored one in Ferdinand that was held last month. This weekend will be a busy one across our viewing area with several summertime events kicking off. This year's Ferdinand Heimatfest is underway this evening. The opening ceremonies were just held moments ago. Tonight's entertainment will be the Linda Smith Band performing at 8 o'clock and the Green Room Rockers, who will perform at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow's events will include the Backyard Barbecue Contest, a car show, and a 5K run walk. 5K registration begins at 6:45 tomorrow morning and the race starts at 8 a.m. The headlining musical act for this year's Heimatfest is the Kentucky Headhunters. They will perform tomorrow evening beginning at 8 o'clock. Ferdinand Town Manager Chris James says this year's musical lineup is as good as it's ever been.
It's one of our better ones. Nothing against past year's acts, but Ferdinand Farmers, they're celebrating their 150th anniversary this year, and they decided let's basically pay the freight for a big name artist to come in for the Heimatfest, kind of kickstart the 175th celebration in Ferdinand, which will officially be next year. A lot of the events are sort of tied in to the 175th.
Now, this year's event is also serving as a prelude to next year's 175th anniversary celebration for Ferdinand. Various merchandise commemorating next year's celebration will be on sale throughout this weekend's Heimatfest. James says the end of this year's Heimatfest will mark a temporary break before preparations for the anniversary celebration start up.
And that'll really kick into high gear, make sure we have the musical entertainment for next year and just all of the extra events that are going to come about. It's going to be an even longer event. We'll still have the Sunday prior Queens contest, Little Miss and Mr., but we'll be adding events and actually starting a day earlier. Thursday of the fest week next year, we'll start with activity, and then the big Friday and Saturday. And then every 5 years, we have our Heimat Fest Parade, which ties in with the 175th celebration. So there'll be a lot of preparation getting that ready to go for next year as well.
This year's Heimat Fest runs through tomorrow evening. The royalty for the Heimat Fest was selected back on Sunday. This year's queen will be Shelby Clem of Ferdinand, the Little Miss Heimat Fest will be Allison Wall, and Little Mr. Heimat Fest will be Leo Whittolf. Now, the Heimat Fest is not the only event going on this weekend. This evening also marks the kickoff of the Daviess County Fair. The fair is being held up at the county fairgrounds in Elnora. Tonight's events will include the farm stock, truck, and tractor pull, along with a musical performance by the group Haywire on the free stage. The fair is also set to host its own Queen contest coming up on Monday night. That will get underway at 8 p.m. Now, outgoing Fair Queen Ellie Jarrett says being Queen was an honor that involved several different duties.
As Fair Queen, I served as the ambassador for the county fair, so I got to kind of go around and share the word about the fair, reign over the events at the fair. I got to, judge the baby contest and pass out ribbons and things like that. So I was always present at the fair, and then I got to go on and compete at the state fair.
Jarrett is encouraging folks to come out to this year's fair as there is something for everyone. This year's Daviess County Fair is set to run through next Saturday, June 28th. Other events at the fair will include several different musical performances, a hog wrestling contest, baby contest, the Little Miss and Mr. contest, and a demolition derby. State officials are now mailing voter registration postcards to nearly 730,000 Hoosier residents in an ongoing push to remove potentially inaccurate voter registrations from the state's voter rolls. The postcards are being sent only to voters whose first postcards were returned back in May because of undeliverable addresses. Of the initial 4.4 million postcards that were mailed, 16% of those were returned to the state. Secretary of State Connie Lawson says voters receiving the latest postcards must confirm or update their voter information by July 24th, and if they don't, they'll be classified as inactive voters. Those people can still vote, but they could be removed from the voter rolls if they don't vote again before the year 2017. Lawson says millions of dead people remain on voter lists nationwide. To make sure that your information is up to date, you can go online to indianavoters.com. Finally this evening, tomorrow marks the beginning of summer, and the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and other state agencies are reminding people to be alert for safety concerns when attending county fairs and other local festivals. The agencies remind fairgoers to report suspicious activity and also to be alert for severe weather. They also say you should not board a ride if broken parts are visible, if there are signs of improper maintenance, or if it is being run by an inattentive operator. Every ride should have a prominently displayed Homeland Security permit. Additionally, the agencies are asking folks to wash their hands or use hand sanitizer after touching animals and not to eat food inside of barns. They say animals at the fair are in a noisy, crowded, and unfamiliar environment, and they may easily become dangerous if they are spooked or scared. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform with Patty Ozer and Jamie Horton. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.